Yeah, I mean, he did it. He had to trade three more players and a second round draft pick to do it. And I know that people will say, "Who cares about that?" But I've been around long enough to know that when you do team building, you need every possible asset that you have. And now not having Mo Wagner, especially in that second round draft pick that they gave away, will now affect a deal that they can't do in 6 months or a year or 2 years when they're trying to keep this team going. They've pretty much exhausted all of their assets. But look, at the end of the day, if they're able to land one of the big time names and create the new big three and they win championships, nobody will remember. Nobody remembers, I promise you, the machinations that the Miami Heat went through in the summer of 2010 when they got down to one player. That's right. They had Mario Chalmers on their roster, and that was it. Nobody remembers what they had to do to get rid of Michael Beasley and some of the side deals that they cooked up. So I guess ultimately history will show whether Rob Pelinka did a good job or not.
The Lakers have put themselves in the zone to get a max free agent. In the Zone is brought to you by AutoZone. Get in the zone, AutoZone. We're talking to ESPN NBA insider Brian Windhorst. And Windy, we'll move the conversation ahead in a second to what they should do with this money. But I want to ask you a very direct yes or no question. Had Rob Pelinka initially done this trade differently and they had worked it out to be consummated on July 30th instead of July 6th, would any additional assets have to have been given up for the Lakers to have max cap space?
No, but we don't know what the nature of the negotiations were because the Pelicans wanted to turn around and flip the number 4 pick. They never wanted to keep it. And for all that to work, the team that they would have had to trade the number 4 pick wouldn't have been able to get their rookie for a month. They wouldn't have had him for summer league. They wouldn't have had him for, their little training camp before and everything like that. And I'm not sure that the team would have wanted to do that. So the answer is no, he wouldn't have had to do this if they had negotiated this differently. And maybe with what they were giving up, maybe they should have negotiated it differently. But just because he could have doesn't mean he would have been able to.
Okay, so now that we've done that, let's get to where the money should be spent. They obviously have max cap space. In your mind, what is the Lakers' plan at this point to go forward with that space?
Well, it's not even in my mind. It's what I've been told. What I've been told is they have a relatively simple, if audacious, plan. They want Kawhi Leonard or Kyrie Irving, and if they don't get one of those two, they're going to probably break it up. Now, I would include Klay Thompson in sort of the gray area there. Nobody really believes Klay is going to leave Golden State, and he may want some contract points, and there's a possibility he could try to leverage the Warriors a little bit on some of the contract points. So Klay is sort of sitting off to the side. But basically, from what I've been told, it's Kawhi or Kyrie, or again they go with the group plan.
All right, Brian Windhorst with us. So a couple of things come to mind from that answer, Brian. First and foremost, how bizarre would it be for Kyrie, after how he publicly wanted to get away from LeBron, to come sulking back there a couple of years later and realize, yeah, I thought I could be the guy, but I'm not the guy. How humbling would that be, just that scenario alone?
No more strange than Dan Gilbert calling LeBron a coward and a betrayer, and then LeBron saying things about Dan Gilbert and then them getting back. I probably said it on this show. I believe that the best combination in LeBron's career has been Kyrie. They are ideally suited to play with one another, but unfortunately their personalities completely clash. Actually, I think Kyrie's personality clashes a lot of people because he's just a different guy. I've been talking about this possibility for a couple of months. I've had people unequivocally tell me Kyrie is not going to play with LeBron again. Forget about it. But some of his teammates who played with both of them, and you can kind of probably figure out who we're talking about since a bunch of them now work for us because they're retired, really believe it's possible. Like, I've heard like ironclad Kyrie is not playing with LeBron again. They're in a better place personally, but he's not going there. And I'm like, okay, I get it. I hear you. But then, I hear different things. So, obviously Kyrie reached out to LeBron midway through the year, and he did that maybe to settle old differences, but also to leave this window open. And one thing I'm going to tell you is pretty clear to me. Anthony Davis and LeBron James are going to go all out in this recruiting, whatever they can. Now, just because you want to be a recruiter doesn't necessarily mean that the team or the other player wants you sitting next to them in the meeting. That'll take place, maybe take place over the weekend. But LeBron, almost all the free agent meetings will take place in L.A., and LeBron and Anthony Davis are on the set of Space Jam, which I believe is being filmed at USC right now, and they can be anywhere in L.A. in a moment's notice. They probably could get a police escort. So they are active in trying to make it work out. I don't know if Kawhi could even be recruited, to be honest with you, but if that is needed, those guys are there and ready to do it.
Brian Windhorst with us, head of the Hoop Collective podcast. Again, greatest title of all time. So more on this idea of they're going to get a meeting with Kawhi. We had Woj on last week and earlier this week. The weeks tend to run together. And he said, look, it's one thing to get a meeting. It's another thing to have a meeting that means something. So when you hear the idea that there's going to be a meeting with Kawhi and the Lakers, what impact do you actually put on that?
Woj is right on the money. That's the thing. Like, you're going to hear a lot of that over the next, 5 to 7 days. Sometimes the player isn't even at the meeting. In 2014, LeBron had quote-unquote meetings with teams like the Suns and the Mavericks. Heck, he had a, quote, meeting with the 76ers last year. He was not at any of those meetings. We've heard 4 or 5 different teams hoping to get a meeting with Kawhi. I don't know whether Kawhi will actually even attend them, or whether they are courtesy meetings, or, laying the groundwork meetings, or due diligence meetings. That's the thing. I mean, to me, Kawhi Leonard is in an incredibly enviable position. Yes, the Toronto Raptors can come to him and say, come back to us, even sign a short contract, sign a 1-year deal. We're going to have 7 of our 8 top guys in all likelihood come back. We can win this championship again. The Warriors are not going to be recovered. But Kawhi can look back them in the eye and say, yeah, well, if I go to the Clippers, we're going to be a championship contender there. Wherever I go, we're going to be a championship contender.
Thank you for watching ESPN on YouTube. For more sports and analysis, download the ESPN app, and live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.